How It Feels to Love You Lately. Now this is another one of the tracks that I got at the first hurdle with Fabric Reality. This was in the first batch of songs I received, and I remember it sounded quite different to the way it sounds now, and this is probably one of the other rockier tracks we've got, and this is the track to me that reminded me, I remember really early on, it reminded me of the kind of early Smashing Pumpkins stuff, especially the double record, Melancholy Infinite Sadness, and the first disc that's got like Jelly Belly or something on it, I think. I haven't listened to that for years. And it has that detuned guitar riff feel to it. And I think that was kind of a real focus point. But weirdly, in the verses of this song, it has like a kind of open, almost conversation-like quality within the lyric and the vocal performance. So it has that. I've described this in the last set of interviews. It has this really quiet, loud thing, which was made popular by bands in the 90s, where everything was, really quiet in the verse, and you get this huge dynamic, it just explodes in the chorus, which is, it's kind of like more band orientated, which is quite funny considering that me and Garbs are making this music purely on our own, on computers. So, yeah, we were trying to go for that feel when we were looking at the track. And I remember when I was doing the backing vocals of this, particularly where I was trying to make it like quite operatic, and I was giving it loads of head voice stuff and lots of things to kind of almost make it a bit Devin Townsend-ish, in a bad way probably, but it felt like that because he has this cool way of being able to deliver really big operatic rock stuff with this kind of like almost baritone, not almost baritone, very baritone texture to his singing. So I thought that would kind of be cool to kind of shove that in there and see how that felt. And yeah, I thought that worked really well. Another cool point about this is this has a lot of like random cut off stutter edit stuff where the audio just kind of stops. There's no particular rhyme or reason to it, which is really cool because it messes with your perception of time and how things feel. And you can really hear this in the breakdown where the vocals just stop, and because there's a lack of drums in there, you're not really sure like where the time signature is, etc. So you kind of get thrown off your horse, if you will, when it comes to knowing where the track is. And I thought, oh yeah, I know what this is about. And then all of a sudden you get this almost broken radio feedback thing in the breakdown. That's one of my favourite bits of this track, how it has this kind of usual, more predictable rock and rollism to it, and then you just have this weird broken breakdown, which is cool. And it does sound, I think, very much like you're kind of tuning into a radio station or something, and then you find this little hip-hoppy drum fill thing over the vocals in the second half. So that was really cool from a production point of view, and that's where I added a load of things. So yeah, I guess like classical FM with a fuzz box is how it ended up being. Yeah, it's a really fun track from that point of view. Again, like I've mentioned in other interviews, especially the one for Ease My Mind, because I think it was near the front. It does have this loose kind of feel where it doesn't feel kind of impinged by what Fabric's become. It feels like it's really open and going for it. Whereas I think some of the compositions we came up towards the end of the writing session for Fabric, the end of the session was we kind of knew where we were going and the things we needed, and you get I think you get conservative, but not in a negative way. You get more conservative in a we got to round this off and give the listener a really rounded experience, a really fulfilling experience from the listener's point of view, which is totally what you need to do, and stop going off on random tangents all the time. Of course, obviously, the general rule is that you have the nothing ventured, nothing gained problem with that. So this track doesn't suffer from any of that at all. It was one of the first bits and pieces that I heard, and when I got it, I remember really vividly all the time when I was going through all the demos of the tracks, and it was amazing how you could hear how Garbs had come up with all these landscapes of ideas and all these some were backing tracks, some were full tracks, some were sections, some were not. You could really hear how Fabric was literally like being born within this set of ideas. So it was really cool. I really, really love the way the chorus melody works in this. it does feel very kind of rock band, the way the chorus melody fits in, and then it has that payoff thing, that how it feels to love you lately, which really reminds me of I don't know why it reminds me of this, but it does remind me a lot of that 80s kind of, Smith style thing, and I think that's, to great credit, it has that kind of rememberable. I know people that love Fabric this will be one of the big tags in the project, that how it feels to love you lately. They go digga digga down, bow down down, and then straight into a guitar riff on the second verse, which is really cool, and it's got that thing that Garbs does where he's put a guitar solo in there, which is really melodic and really rememberable from the melodic point of view, but it has this extra layer. It almost sounds like a kind of 50s rock and roll thing with a reverb and the way it's all spaced out to give you that kind of almost surf rock thing, which is weird because that's a really strange element to have within the middle of this rock track. But I think that works because you have this chorus section and it just comes out and then you go bang straight into this extra element, which makes it really exciting. And I love that bit, that kind of dynamic of going in and out. And then of course, as you get out of the other chorus, you go into that kind of radio feedback breakdown. So this track does send you on a couple different trips down the garden path, should we say. So it's kind of a mash together of all those elements, and Garb's giving it that kind of upper mix shouty stuff in the chorus, which is really cool. And again, the quiet loud thing is really rings true with this. So a really fun rock addition to the Fabric reality wood pop.